all of the socioeconomic issues that I've been speaking out about for most of my life and been treated like I'm crazy for it. Some of y'all are just now starting to realize that I was telling the truth. There's a bunch of you assholes who wanted to ignore me and make fun of me and tease me and pretend like this shit isn't happening. Now look at you. Hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of Save the Children posts. Meanwhile, are you going to do anything more than post about it? No, the fuck you're not. You're lazy bitches. That's why people like me end up doing all the work. And I mean all the work. You cowards aren't going to do anything but talk about it. It's disgusting. Meanwhile, you don't care about the truth. You just want somebody to take it out on. You ignore the victims. You victimize the victims. You tell the victims they wanted it, needed it, chose it, and deserved it. Rape is not a feminist issue. Police brutality is not a black issue. And the children, well, they should be all of our issue. When I spoke out for years and years, you treated me like I was some sort of crazy fucking piece of shit, making this shit up. Fuck all of you lazy bitches, especially those of you in houses. All right, we got some racist bitch here, calls himself the D to the S. Hey, he types, and then he types, I'm pretty sure it is a black issue. Excuse me, bitch. The majority of those murdered by the police last year were disabled. Over half of those killed by police last year were disabled. Almost half of them were homeless. The majority of black people incarcerated were homeless, just like the majority of white people who are incarcerated were homeless when they were picked up. Police brutality is a police brutality issue, bitch. The D to the S. Jesus fucking Christ, this guy's an idiot. Or is you a stupid lady? It don't matter much, does it? Pretending that police brutality is a black issue. No, police brutality is the issue. Pretending that it's some other issue than what it is pretty fucked up. It's kind of like when people say that men can't be raped or black men can't be racist. Both of those are completely fucking ignorant and complete fucking bullshit. Is rape a black issue? Or is rape the issue? Because if it's a black issue, then you're insinuating that it doesn't happen to anybody else. This only happens to black people, or it happens more to black people than to anybody else, and it doesn't. The police killed more homeless people last year than all minorities combined. Meanwhile, there are minorities who got it worse than black folks. Let's take a look at the Native Americans for shit's fucking sake. You guys want to pretend that you give a fuck about a lot of people that you really don't. Only when it becomes popular do you jump on the issue. The thing is, we need to do something about the police brutality issue. This is not a black issue. This is an issue nationwide. The things that are done to the poor are done nationwide. And yeah, you can thank racism for that. That's how it got its start. The 13th Amendment made it legal to use anybody convicted of a crime as slave labor. So the South made homelessness illegal. Well, homelessness. Why is it they did that? Because really making Jim Crow laws was not going to go over well right after the Civil War. So they had to do a bunch of immoral and illegal shit, making it illegal to be homeless while 4 million former slaves are now homeless is what created the chain gangs. And what did we get from the chain gangs? Well, Adolf Hitler and Fritz Sauckel and quite a few other Nazi hierarchy thought that was such a great idea, they implemented that. After World War II, the United States took the German model of the original American model and went, hey, how can we get more money out of this? The majority of those killed by police, does it matter what color your skin is if you're killed by the police? Does it? No, it fucking doesn't. Now we got CPS getting busted doing the things that y'all told me for years and years and years that I was crazy for saying. And now look at it. Is this me shoving it in your face that I was right? No, this is me shoving it in your face that you're pieces of shit who don't give a fuck until it's popular. I fought harder for Jamie's kid than she did. I fought harder for Amy Witcher's kid than she did. I fought harder for Miss Jerry's kids than she did. I fought harder for Sally Treon's kids than she did. I don't even have kids. Now, the D to the S typed, well, fuck the police then. I agree with that. This is hidden, of course. I'm going to show it because the D to the S, well, is a human being, has a right to his own thoughts, feelings, and opinions. Let's see. Nick Moran typed the D to the S. You're insane. More whites got killed than blacks. That's true. But we also got to look at the reasons for it. Is skin color the only factor? Fuck no, it's not. Just like any predator, these guys seek out people who they can get away with victimizing. And that means that they understand. What do they understand? What it is they can and cannot get away with. You go after a rich person in a house, even if they're running around grabbing underage girls by the pussy like Donald Trump, the police aren't going to do a goddamn thing. But they see a homeless person walking down the street, you assume that he's too broke. Too broke for what? To be able to hire a civil lawyer, because the cops aren't going to investigate themselves. You see a black man going down the street, well, we're taught pretty much the same thing. I'm in Chapel, Nebraska, surrounded by a bunch of racist rednecks. I can't fucking stand it here. There are good people here. There certainly are. But they're few and far between. And being a good person doesn't make any goddamn difference if you're a coward. Those who are complacent in matters of evil support it. Those who do nothing always favor the oppressor. Always. Nick Moran typed NAA, not the only factor, but I'm sick of this Black Lives Matter bullshit shoved down our throats every day. A lot of people are. A lot of us, we stuck with Black Lives Matters because we listened to the rhetoric about how these people, not black people, you want to take a look at who's in Black Lives Matters. It's not just black people. But yeah, we get it shoved at us that we need to ignore the other victims, that this can't possibly be happening to other victims because they're not the right color. Oh no, this could never happen to a white person. White people need to shut up and get to the back of the bus. Now, how many times have I had to move? How many times have I been incarcerated, threatened, and assaulted over crimes I didn't commit? Meanwhile, they get away with it by calling me mentally ill. Is that the same as being black? No, it's not. A black person has more rights than someone called mentally ill. Now, when you refer to somebody as mentally disabled, it's a different story. We have all sorts of rights on paper. But as you can see through all of this, from day one, let's see, the D to the S typed, I have been incarcerated for things I haven't done as well. It sucks, doesn't it? There used to be a lot more people like me, a lot more people who would stand up for our rights. That includes yours. Most of them ended up incarcerated for speaking out. Many of them are incarcerated for defending themselves against police officers and the general public. If you're a homeless person, anybody can do anything they want to you at any point in time, and they know it. They know they can play on public bias. You go into a fucking hospital as a homeless person, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get treated like you're in there for fucking pills, like you're in there because you're a junkie. You must be a junkie because public opinion says that you're a junkie because you're homeless. We see homeless people on TV, and what are they doing? They're getting fucked up on drugs, getting fucked up on alcohol. Meanwhile, most of the people that I know here in Chapel, Nebraska, it's 6 o'clock a.m. here. Within the next 4 hours, a good portion of these people are going to be driving on the road with a beer in their hands. Some of them drunk by 10 a.m. I am for what it is that Black Lives Matters pretends, or at least pretended back at the beginning that they were about, that they were after, their goals, their intentions. But now, years later, we see that that's not the case. Matter of fact, Black Lives Matters is making things worse for all of us because it is taking away from the other victims. Demetrius Shankling is dead. When I told on those officers the things that they did, their fellow officers assaulted me. And then those officers killed Demetrius Shankling. When I was assaulted by Officer Waylon Lolatai, I spoke out. And I was sent to Clearview Behavioral Health for that. And guess what? Officer Lolatai assaulted 6 more people in 2018. He shouldn't have ever had access to me. When he assaulted an inmate in Denver, that should have been the end of the line for that motherfucker. He should have gone to prison. Instead, he was allowed to move on to be hired by another police department. Now, here's the part that doesn't fit with Black Lives Matter's bullshit. Officer Waylon Lolatai is not a white guy. He just gets off on hurting people, and it doesn't matter what color his skin is. It's his content of character that we should be looking at. And what is his content of character? It's not there. It doesn't exist. Nick Moran typed 100% agree. They only speak up about certain victims. What about everyone else that gets killed? It's right. What about the other victims of Black Lives Matters? Now, a lot of people want to turn peaceful protests around and try to pretend that these are violent people who are going out of their way to seek violence, and that's not the case. But the fact is that if I'm going to get blamed for everything that white people have ever done to black people, then I'm going to blame black people for everything that black people have ever done wrong to white people. That girl on the bus did not deserve to get smacked around by 6 grown women clapping their hands and laughing about it, but it's okay. BLM is not going to address that. They're going to ignore that and pretend it didn't happen. There was a boy who was beaten up. This was caught on video too. And, well, I watched the video. There's actually 4 white males in that video, all getting assaulted for the color of their skin. None of them at any point in time are trying to start a fight. None of them at any point in time are putting up their fist to swing back. Meanwhile, I get to hear about white people this and white people that, and how white people have never had a march, so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. Nearly every time BLM mentions white people marching, it's the KKK. Meanwhile, you forget that over 1 million Northern soldiers marched for thousands of miles through the North and the South. Over 600,000 white Northerners were killed. That's a hell of a march for black rights. You want to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? He's a hero of mine as well. Now, if we're going to talk about the children, y'all should have done that years ago, before it was a popularity contest. Because once it became a popularity contest, and now everybody wants to say save the children, I've exposed all the reasons why that doesn't work. I already explained to y'all why I wasn't gonna. I explained to you what unity is. Shaming the other victims is not unity. Shaming the other victims because they're not the right color to have been raped. They're not the right color to have been victimized by police. They're not the right color to freeze to death without that illegal blanket. Am I going to stop fighting for black rights? Fuck no, those are my rights. The Black Lives Matters bring up how many of those folks who are black and incarcerated were homeless when they were arrested. No. Hell, most of the people I see typing anything about the homeless at all from BLM have hateful, terrible things to say, saying the very same things that I hear black folks complaining all the time about white people saying. White people say this, white people say that. You know, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to defend ourselves against it? Well, for fucking starters, you can stop saying that shit to the other fucking victims. The homeless are victims of police brutality. Not only that, there is no protection for them. There is no rights of having a roof. Now, those of you who want to say, oh, well, you know, the police went in and shot this person and went in and shot that person, nobody's safe. Well, fuck you. You're a lot fucking safer in a house than you are out on the streets. Big fucking difference between being able to lock your door and being subject to victimization whenever somebody just so happens to see you and have a bad night. There used to be a rich bitch. This guy used to hang out up at Old Chicago's in Boulder, making fun of homeless people night after night after night, coming out there just being the most obnoxious fuckhead ever. One morning, I hear two people arguing in an alley, and I decided I didn't want nothing to do with it. So I waited until the screaming subsided, and I got out of my squat. I walked through the alley to go to Starbucks to have my first coffee of the morning, and there's that jackass. He had just broken up with his girlfriend because he was fucked up on drugs and alcohol, and he wanted someone to take it out on. And who did he take it out on? Me. Now, why did he take it out on me? Because I had puke on my shoes. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get sick. I didn't ask to get sick. And I let this guy pound on me for probably a good 2 to 3 minutes before I fought back. I reached up, I grabbed a hold of his ear and got a good portion of his hair with it. And I gave him a bunch of little baby punches to his face. I was going to stop hitting him as soon as he started bleeding, but he just wouldn't bleed. Some week later, his head was all puffed up. Looked like he had baseballs, friggin' softballs, golf balls, wild balls, all sorts of sizes glued to his head. Homeless people learn very quickly that you can't go to the police. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to ignore your comments. These are important. You guys are Americans. Those of you who aren't, I still thank you for your opinion. But this helps to show what people think, what people's mentalities are. Nick Moran type, wow, you're so right. I like the way you look at things. You're a real man, not like these people. They're blind to the truth. The D to the S type, dude, you are so right. D to the S type, it hurts me when an innocent homeless person is hurt or killed. That's how I feel about children, too. That's how I feel about whenever black people are killed, too. See, I'm not against black people. I'm trying to get them to work together with the rest of us who are also going through it. This isn't a race issue. That's not to say that race is not a part of it. But we need BLM to acknowledge, first of all, that most of the black victims incarcerated, most of them were homeless. And then we need to establish that homeless people are people too. We've got all sorts of special rights for all these different minority groups. The homeless aren't considered a minority group. The homeless account for 0.2% of the population and 81% of the incarcerated population. 0.2% of the population accounts for almost half of the people that the police killed last year. It don't matter if you're black, white, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, or fucking violet, you can still end up homeless. It doesn't matter if you're an atheist, a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a Buddhist, it doesn't fucking matter. You can still end up homeless. It doesn't matter if you have a penis or a vagina. It doesn't matter if you're 8 or 80. You can still end up homeless. This one from Nick Moran is hidden. I'm going to show it, of course. Homeless people are people too. They should not be treated so poorly. It's not right. Some of the greatest people I've met had nothing, so I hate that shit. It's not right. Wow, that's so wrong. Can't believe you were treated like that. Well, I'm used to it. I grew up in the system as a child. When you try to go to the police, they give you a choice between being locked up in juvie or remaining with your predator. This is what it was like in the 80s. This is what it was like in the 90s. This is what it's like today. Natalie Bollinger deserved a better life. She deserved a better family. So did I. I keep getting told about how crack is a black person problem. Cocaine is a black person problem. You know, I went into the system when I was 4 years old because my mother and my father couldn't stay off the cocaine. By the way, they're not black people. Also, I get to hear about how cocaine is a rich person's drug. My mom's not rich, she put a lot of cocaine up her nose. And when it all comes down to it, my mom's a monster, much like many of these other folks who want to pretend like they're doing the right thing. My little brother, his name is Michael Allen Albert. He lives in Iowa. He's a child molester and a rapist. But my mom protected him. Meanwhile, my little brother Michael, his wife's name is Ashley. He keeps calling up women that I know, trying to get laid. Like, Michael, you're married. Michael, you got kids. Oh, yeah, you fuck your own kids, though. My little brother, Michael Allen Albert, belongs in prison. So does my mother. My mother's one of the worst perpetrators out there, but she's not necessarily a sexual predator. She's certainly not loyal. And she had sex with at least two of my friends in high school while she was married. Now, when my mom and my dad screwed up shit growing up, they weren't the ones that were punished. I was. Just like that little girl who cuts on herself. If you see a girl cutting on herself, there's two parts to that. Now, this doesn't matter if we're talking about deep cutters or shallow cutters. Shallow cutters cut for attention. Deep cutters cut because it makes them feel better. But the reason for the cutting is always the same. There's a problem and people aren't listening. They're not hearing you. A lot of the women that cut themselves, they cut themselves sort of over the fact that daddy molested them or daddy raped them. But there's more to it than that. In order to advance the cutting, you have to speak out and speak out and speak out and speak out and be turned down, be forced to normalize with your predator. Many of the women that I know who were raped by their father or their stepfather growing up. They hate their own mothers more than they hate the men who raped them. Do you know why? Because they told on their predators. They told their mother, and their mother didn't care. It's a popularity contest, folks. If you're pretty, you can get away with a lot more. Look at Jeremy Meeks. Jeremy Meeks can literally rape people, and women will type shit when they see his face like, I wish he would rape me. I want you to look up Jeremy Meeks, those of you who can't remember him. Meanwhile, if a man is not physically attractive, you walk by saying shit like, oh, he looks like a child molester. Oh, stay away from people like them. They're all rapists and drug addicts. Plus, there's the way that people treat you when you're not allowed to defend yourself at any point in time, and nobody cares. They just want someone to punish. So yesterday I was walking by the park here in Chapel, Nebraska. There were some kids out there, and one of them, little girl, probably about 5 or 6, screams at the top of her lungs. Now, mind you, she's probably 30 yards away from me, if not more. And she screams at the top of her lungs, Mom says you're a bad man. And of course, there's 3 other kids sitting there with her. And one of them screams at me, I'm sorry, sir, I don't know where she got that from. Well, she got it from her mother. She just said that, didn't she? Did I deserve that? No, I didn't. Would going over there and beating the hell out of those kids have improved the situation? No, it wouldn't have. Lots of people say, man, if you disrespected me that way. Yeah, dude, these are kids. Kids aren't always going to be respectful. Kids are going to have energy. They don't need fucking Ritalin all the goddamn time. They don't need to be drugged. They just need to be allowed to exist without punishment, without this kind of punishment. Where you teach your kids that the good guys are the bad guys and the bad guys are the good guys, and the way that you can tell is that the good guys look like Captain America, bad guys look like Kaiser Sose. Who is Kaiser Sose? He's a character from a movie who was disabled, been through a fire, and, well, a bunch of other stuff. He was not a good-looking feller, and he was played by a guy named Kevin Spacey. Y'all sick of Hollywood yet? Y'all made fun of Corey Feldman when he spoke out. You made fun of me when I spoke out. It doesn't matter if it's Hollyweird or down in the dumps where the rest of us live, because most of us don't live in Hollyweird, do we? Save the children. That's number one. Number one right there. The children are more important than black people. The children are more important than white people. The children are more important than men, more important than women, more important than Christians, more important than Jews, more important than atheists, more important than Muslims. The children. I was born in 1980. I got to be part of a generation where, well, there wasn't a whole lot of racism. There's not. In my generation, most of the racism that we had to deal with was black kids pretending that every time there was an issue, it's because some white person is being racist. If 2 white kids get into a fight with each other, it's just a fight. If a black kid and a black kid get into a fight, it's just a fight. But if a white kid and a black kid get into a fight, it must be the white kid's fault because he's racist because he's white. You have any idea how many times that exact scenario was played out in front of me? Pretending that everything is racist against you is just as racist, if not more so racist, because many, many, many people are being victimized in this same way, but they're not black, so it must not be happening to them. Is that correct? They should be ignored because they're not black, right? It's not Black Lives Matter's place to worry about them because they're not black, right? I mean, how many more excuses do we have to get? Meanwhile, we got these memes about Bob, right? How Bob is sitting down at a table and everybody else has got food but Bob. Whoa, hold on a second. See that right there? Bob is the only victim at the table, which is obviously not true. Bob in this scenario is supposed to represent black people, right? And it was all over Facebook like 3 weeks ago. Bob is sitting at the table and Bob says, well, Bob deserves to eat. And everybody else says, well, everybody deserves to eat. Continues eating while Bob still doesn't have a plate. It's the assumption and the rhetoric and the fact that you are selling a bullshit goddamn narrative. The homeless people, not only did they not get a fucking plate, not only did they not get the food, they weren't even invited to the goddamn table. So the kids are number one. Why are they number one on my list? Because they're the number one most victimized people in America overall. Number two, you might be surprised to know this, but it's former foster children. Because once you get out of foster care, you're dropped off with nothing and a land full of bad laws that are meant to what? Victimize the homeless. Thank you, 13th Amendment. You're such a wonderful thing. Fuck the 13th Amendment. Let's see. Nick Moran typed, wow, that's so wrong. Can't believe you were treated like that. Do you have any brothers or sisters? Yes, I do. I have a little brother named Michael Al Albert, who is a child molester. I have an older brother named Eric Christopher Schwartz, who is a drug addict. And I have a little sister named Tara Lee Hicks. She's just nuttier than squirrel turds. She's not a terrible person. She just well, on the bright side, my little sister is not a child molester and she is not a rapist. On the bright side, my older brother is not a child molester and he's not a rapist. My little brother Michael, he's both. I got a lot of sexual predators I'd like to turn in, but because the police are so busy trying to hide their crimes, I need help. Elijah McClain would still be alive if the police had done their jobs. Demetrius Shankling would still be alive if the police had done their jobs. Natalie Bollinger would still be alive if the police had done their jobs. But their jobs on paper are completely different from their jobs in real life because in real life they spend most of their time hunting homeless people. You don't have to shoot somebody to end their life.